We can talk to Adam Price, the leader of Plaid Cymru. He's just come from one of those meetings. Who did you talk to, Adam?
It was David Lidington and Michael Gove.
And how did the meeting go?
Well, it was a very useful and interesting discussion, actually. First thing, I think it's good that politicians are talking, getting out of the trenches and round the table. That's what people, I think, expect us to do now. We shouldn't probably have left it, the government should have left it to this late stage, but we are where we are. And, I think it's incumbent upon all of us to try and find common ground. We heard some of the difficulties just a moment ago in the conversation you've just been having in terms of finding consensus, but that's where we have to focus now. First priority, I think we've got to take the no deal, cataclysmic scenario off the table.
Well, did David Lidington and Michael Gove give you reason to think that would happen?
Well, these were exploratory discussions. What they're seeing at this stage is understanding the contours, if you like, of the political landscape. Where is everyone, and where can we possibly find that sort of that bit in the middle of the Venn diagram where we could possibly come together?
Right. The viewers may think, gosh, after 2.5 years, you'd think we'd know broadly where MPs or groups of MPs are. Did they give you any indication? Was there any sign of common ground between you and David Lidington and Michael Gove?
Well, where we focused for the majority of our discussion was was the people's vote, and we spent a lot of time discussing the detail of that, trying and understand both sides in terms of how we approach the issue, the practicalities of it. Our view is, look, that is the best means of resolving this question in Parliament and for the country with certainty.
And what did they say?
In the near term? Well, look, they're in listening mode. We talked in detail about the practicalities of how we could make it happen. Look,
how you'd make a people's vote happen?
Yeah, I mean, there's issues around timetable. There's issues, I think, around the question on the ballot paper. We talked about that. There's also, I think, some broader questions. Look, I think there has to be an agreement, I think, across the parties and the political divide, both Leave and Remain, that if there's a further referendum, it has to then resolve the issue of the UK's membership of the EU one way or other for a generation. I think there also needs to be a compact, if you like, a compact of civility in politics, so that the referendum itself is conducted to the best extent with the parties that we're discussing the agreement. We need to have it conducted on a civil basis, so we can press a reset button in our politics.
Adam, so you've had these talks. You talked about a people's vote, another referendum. Are you saying that as a result of those initial talks that you would vote in favour of a deal put to the House by Theresa May if that was then going to be put to a referendum for the people to vote on?
Yes, and that, if the government were to come out on Monday even with that position, then the gridlock, the impasse, the logjam would be broken, and we could move forward. I mean, it's also the case, if the Labour front bench come out in favour of the people's vote, that would be true as well, because there'd be a positive majority in the House of Commons on the people's vote then. So, both front benches really now have to, I think, live up to their responsibilities and provide leadership.
We talked about a people's vote, and you've explained the discussion that you had. Did you talk about changing Theresa May's deal?
Well, we touched on that a little bit, but my interpretation of it is that it's unlikely to provide any solution, really. I mean, because that would require the government to rip up the red lines in terms of, you were referring to the customs union, freedom of movement, etc. If they were to move in the direction of Norway Plus, that's a long journey for the government. Whereas actually, if they were to say, look, we believe in our agreement, but we accept, in order to move things on, in order to have a final, certain resolution of this question, not just in the next few months by a referendum by the early summer, but for a generation, we're prepared to accept then putting that to the people, and the Prime Minister could go out and sell that deal. And I think it's important that actually that referendum is not seen as a betrayal of our democracy. There's every prospect that the government could win that vote. I'd be campaigning for Remain, but they could go out there and sell it, and at least we would actually then finally resolve this issue, so we can get on to talk about other things other than Brexit.